Welcome to the MBN Solutions Boss and Data podcast. My name is Robin Huggins. I'm Client Services Director for MBN Solutions, a UK-based data talent and people solutions business. We solve talent problems in the data space by collaborating with a community of practitioners, managers, leaders, academics and enthusiasts. In each episode of our podcast, we take a deep dive into one of the topics currently challenging the data leaders within our community, with a special guest providing their input based on their background and experience in the data space. This episode, our topic is building data teams in an evolving world. Joining me today to discuss the topic in more detail is a data leader who is head of data science for NatWest Group. He's led the transformation of how the organisation builds and delivers AI, machine learning and data-led solutions to the organisation and the cloud infrastructure that powers them. He has a PhD in physics from the University of Glasgow and prior to joining NatWest spent over a decade as a researcher in high-energy particle physics, working as a member of the LHCb collaboration at the CERN Large Hadron Collider. Welcome to the show, Dr. Greig Cowan.
Thank you, Rob. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, absolutely buzzing to have you on this, fella. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me. And how are you doing this fine Friday?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's been a long week, a fun week, and lots of challenges, but we got there, made it to the end, and
obviously the highlight of the week, 16:30, appearing as a guest on the podcast.
Saving the best to last, right?
Absolutely, mate. Greg, as I say, thank you so much for joining me. Now, you and I have known each other for a while now, fella. But for the benefit of the audience, can you tell us your story? So where do you come from? What's been your journey in data to date?
Yeah.
Where are you now? What do you do?
Okay. How long we got again?
As long as you like, mate.
Tell me when to shut up. So I think you covered a bit. So my background is science, physics. So that was University of Glasgow for my undergraduate and for my PhD. And then after that, I really that was all very theoretical stuff. That was my kind of passion at that point. But after I got my PhD, I was like, all my friends are having fun, skiing, hiking, having out for socialising at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. Lots of people I knew were kind of in that world. I was like, oh, I want about that. That sounds like fun. So I then kind of switched tacks a little bit and got into my first postdoc was to help sort of set up the infrastructure for the computing side of things at the Large Hadron Collider. So that's when I got into sort of big computing and how that can power science. So I was involved for a few years in helping set up that side of things. But then at that point, I was but the science is what I love the science. I want to be finding out new things and learning what's going on kind of under the covers. So that's why I then sort of switched back into the more like heavy research side of things. Joined this called LHCb, so the Large Hadron Collider, B's for beauty experiment, and then really dove into doing all the kind of the experimentation, the data analysis, the presentations, and to do the kind of the hard science side of things. So did that for a long time. Loved it. Lived out in Geneva. All that sort of stuff was absolutely fantastic. And then I guess 2018, the whole kind of data science, machine learning, that there was a big wave that was on the rise, as you well know. You've been a part of that for a long time, and I think also for me, life happened. Got married, kids were coming along the way, like all that sort of stuff. So decided it was the right time to then move across from that academia to industry, and ended up in NatWest as a sort of data ML professional, and I'm now sort of head of data science for the bank.
So what did that just to the end part then? Obviously, that kind of the journey within the bank. What did that look like, just in terms of incremental steps?
I mean, so I've been I guess lucky because we've definitely been on a wave. This rising wave of excitement, maybe hype about machine learning and AI. So the bank was very, I think, conscious that it wanted to adapt and move in that direction. So it went on it set up a team, the team that I'm in now, called this kind of an innovation team, and started off small. So when I joined, I was kind of employee number 10, so within that team. So relatively early in that journey, and we've now scaled up to like over 100 people, and it's really, I guess I joined initially as a as a kind of a data scientist to sort of do the doing and build models, look at data. But very quickly, I think I was fortunate in a way that it was a growing team. And I think with some of my experience from the CERN days,
Right.
I then was seen as a more of a sort of stepping into that kind of leadership type position, and really started to then sort of help grow the team myself. Yeah.
Okay. And what we're here today to discuss in a little bit more detail is that concept that you and I have kind of spoken about, which is the building and the running of that team is not fixed against a static background.
Mm-hmm.
There's a constantly evolving, changing business and technological landscape.
Yeah.
And it's your job to plot a course.
Yes.
While everything around is chaos.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry.
No, and it's plotting that course is difficult, right? That's where you earn the money, right? Is to kind of understand where to set off on your journey.
So to start us off then, how do you ensure that your team's goals align with the overall strategic objectives of the bank?
Yeah.
Especially in that landscape that changes so rapidly.
Yeah.
How do you stay in partnership or in tandem?
Yeah, no, so it's a good question. I think so. We do a few things. So I think first of all, there's always a danger. I think sometimes when you're in the kind of the data tech sort of technology space to grasp the new tools and to just do technology for technology's sake. So we're really conscious that this we only exist to sort of help the business sort of serve its purpose and get the value for the business. So I think that sort of customer first objective is something that we really think about a lot and talk about a lot, and we try and choose the right tool for the job and focus on making sure that the business gets the value or the customer gets the value that they need, and it's not about necessarily using the latest greatest model or tool or whatever. I mean, we try and do that as well. I'll talk about that maybe later, but I think having the kind of customer-led focus is what we really strive for. And I think as part of that, I'm sure like many organisations, we talk about things like OKRs, so like objectives and key results. So we look at the overall objectives of the business and then see how can we help sort of support them. What are the things we're looking to drive, and what are the key results that then sort of support that and evidence the fact that we are moving the dial in some of these things. So for us, it's all about driving sort of transformational value. So can we get sort of 5x, 10x return on investment? So for every pound we put into building something, do we get sort of 10x back, for example? Or it's how do we sort of supercharge and build enablers? So it's not just like my team or our team that's succeeding. It's how can we then leverage and give acceleration to everyone else across the enterprise who are wanting to use AI, for example. So yeah, I think that customer-led lens, but then seeing how we can help others and deliver value. That's how we kind of stay. We try and stay aligned, I would say, with the objectives.
And in the middle of all that, you'd mentioned that not just using tech for tech's sake, but given that constant evolution or almost arms race of constant new innovation within technology, how do you stay ahead of the curve in identifying and incorporating state-of-the-art tools, say, and emerging technologies that could enhance your team's capabilities and efficiencies? And I suppose what I'm looking at here is, I totally get that you've got that customer first, and then you've got those metrics in the middle, and then that enabler. But if you're inwardly focused too much, then you won't catch some of the great tech out there. So how do you do that balance? How does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a constant tension, right? You want to deliver on time, but you also want to be seen to be pushing the envelope in terms of the tech that you're using or the methods you're using. So I think we do a few things. We read a lot of papers to sort of see what's coming out of the kind of research side of things. We try and partner with universities. So people within my team are doing PhDs at the moment. So they're working with us, but also then doing PhDs in the kind of AI ML space. So we're really, that gives us links to academia, but also lets us contribute back to that at the kind of this leading edge of it. And then through those links, we then can get speakers coming in to talk to us from academia or other companies who then can present their take on the world and how they're using new tech. And we also do a lot of work with like MSc students. So in Scotland, we work a lot with the Data Lab, which you're very familiar with, and other organisations to bring master's students into their organisation. They can work with us on their thesis for a few months. That can sort of spark off some new ideas for us. It helps us kind of maybe test out some of that not mission critical stuff, but lets us do some of the research on the side. And some of those things will quite often then turn into something real, down the line, maybe a few months or a couple of years later, we'll kind of establish ourselves and what we need to do, and then try and apply that in real life.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking there about that, the obvious one there, and the times in the past you and I have spoken about the academic collaboration piece, and having students with new, fresh, different takes on the world constantly coming in, and why don't we try this? Why do you not do that? It seems like a great way of doing it. But looking at, I suppose, one of the other tensions that you have to deal with, and I'm looking here about the heavily regulated environment in which you operate. So given that financial services businesses, they can't just fly freely. There are a framework and a parameter that you can't operate out of. How do you strike the balance as a leader between encouraging and fostering innovation and creativity, but playing by the rules? How do you play that game?
It's another one of these tensions, right? So, so the bank's got a really strong set of governance, risk, and control policies that we're very aware of. Everyone kind of gets regular training on these things, so we know what the boundaries are. We also then partner really closely with colleagues across the business in these different functions to make sure they're aware of what we're doing, checking that we are within the sort of the guidelines. And really, it's all about kind of, it's about us taking ownership of the problem, making sure we understand the business context, the impact on the customer, and demonstrating that we've really thought through end-to-end what it is that we're doing and what the risks are. And if we can do that and have a conversation and demonstrate to those colleagues that we believe we're in control for reasons X, Y, Z, then there is actually a lot of scope to play and to try new things. So I think it's all about being responsible and making sure you bring everyone on the journey with you to make sure that they're comfortable. And we'll regularly do little kind of my role, part of it is to also go out to other parts of the data science ML organization and ask them, so what are you doing? What methods are you using? Do a bit of a kind of review session. So we do that all the time to really get into the guts of how people build things, and then that then helps us with some sort of a standardization to improve the overall quality of what we do.
Is there any element of almost, and I'm thinking here, like checks and balances? Do you surround yourself with people who are a combination of risk takers and safe pairs of hands and entrepreneurial spirit? And do you do that consciously? Do you try and bring all those dissenting voices into the room at the same time so that you can balance out innovation against regulatory framework? Is that a conscious decision?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's the kind of the risk and control colleagues that we work with sort of day in, day out. They definitely provide that kind of check and balance. So they have their own frameworks that we then sort of plug into, so that we know. It gives you a kind of a methodology to follow, so you know that they have this kind of that set of questions that you should be thinking about, and that when you read those, you go, actually, maybe I forgot about that, and that does prompt you to think about a new way to engineer something so that you're still pushing the boundaries, but you're doing it in a way that's kind of cognizant of the constraints that you're operating under. So for me, I think I find it quite satisfying, because I like to build systems, but I like to solve problems, and these constraints, the regulations that you come under, you could view it as being an absolute, as something difficult to deal with. But I see it more as you have to engage with it. You have to work out what is the best way to build your system that's safe, compliant, and it's just another constraint that you have to sort of deal with as part of the engineering. So, I think I like the challenge of doing that. And when you get across the line with something, you can look back and say, that was a significant piece of work because of all those different things you have to sort of demonstrate that you're doing things in the right way.
Yeah. Now, this next question has a huge nod to your colleague, Dr. Andrew McMahon,
yes,
who came on this very show and spoke about the importance of moving the needle. How do you quantify and communicate the impact of your team's work on the business bottom line? What KPIs, you spoke about them earlier, what KPIs do you use to evaluate moving the needle?
Yes, as I said, I think that customer first, thinking about the value has always been really important for us. I think that gives us the kind of as an innovation team. People might be asking, well, what value are you bringing? You're a cost center. Like,
you're a cost center.
So I think we're really conscious that we need to be shown to be adding value to give us that license to operate, to then do some of the research stuff and to really help sort of push the boundary. So for us, it's all about making sure we've got really tight connections with our business stakeholders. We try and partner with them, and we're not just seen as a kind of, we try and position ourselves not just as like a back office function that input comes in and output goes out, and input comes in and output goes out. It's all about working with them on the solution, designing it in a kind of iterative way so that we're sort of doing it together as part of the journey, and therefore it's a joint team collaborations part of how we operate. And I think by doing that, I think the stakeholders themselves then see, hopefully, the value add that we bring through that sort of, it's an experimental approach, but it's because we're kind of constantly iterating towards something that they want. That I think that they see the value there. So that's really how we operate. So for us, it's all about how many of these experiments can we do? How can we close things off quickly if they seem not to be working? But then how can we deliver relatively quickly within the constraints we operate in, so that the business sees the actual value to their bottom line quite quickly, but knows that we were part of that delivery. Yeah.
Just as a supplementary on that one, and you've mentioned there the importance of working collaboratively with stakeholders, and what I'm interested in here, and it's a subject that I've explored with a few guests, is almost that changing profile of the data professional over, say, the last decade or so, and the importance now of the ability to engage with senior stakeholders for that. The underlying domain expertise piece is a given, but then these acute commercial skills, which allows the data leader in your case, or the data professional in your team's case, to be able to work in a collaborative manner to negotiate to a certain extent, to manage stakeholders. How important is that in the dynamic of your team, and has that changed over time? Do you look for more of it now than you did?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's really essential. I mean, I think when we first started, it was kind of throw in a bunch of data scientists and it'll be fine. But obviously that doesn't work. And we really work on projects where it's very much a cross-functional collaborative team where you've got data scientists, ML engineers, data engineers, sort of business translator, people with delivery leads, project managers, and business SMEs, and they're all working together on that joint project, so that there's a real mix of skills and experience there, so that there's constant challenge to what we're doing, so that people always know we're heading in the right direction, but it's always linked back to the bottom line or the business needs in the end. And I think our team, I think the bank does this quite well, so that it's very much seen as that collaboration is key.
So in terms of that, answering those business problems in the evolving world, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you never found the unicorn. You've created a unicorn team. You've created a team that can solve every aspect of the problem rather than relying on finding the 1 in a million people.
Yeah,
you've built collaborative functions.
Absolutely, and I think I've got lots of very smart people in my team. But I think collectively we just add up to more than some of the parts. it's all about those complementary skills and ensuring really good communication between everyone, so that and clear alignment to where we're trying to head, so that we get there quickly and with quality.
So from your perspective then, as a data leader who has been successful in building that kind of team, you would say that the emphasis then is on complementary individuals and the communication between them, allied to that sense of common purpose. That's the most important piece about surviving in the evolving world.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think having a really kind of a really high trust environment as well. I think we know that we've got a lot of smart people in our team who come with a lot of really good ideas themselves, and we want to give them space to explore those ideas in a way that's safe for them, safe for the organisation. But I think having the clear communication between everyone, we know what everyone's doing, where they're at, and then we can make sure they're aligned to the overall objective.
Okay. Now you mentioned this earlier on in one of your other answers, but I just want to explore it in a little bit more detail. Acknowledging the rapid pace of change in tech and data sectors, how do you promote that culture of continuously learning and development within the team?
Yeah.
And ensure that you stay in touch with your own individual aspirations around innovation? And you mentioned it earlier, but could you expand on it a little bit? How do you inculcate that?
Yeah. So I mean, what we try and do now, we've got a few things we do. So within our team, we try and give everyone time, say like a Thursday afternoon, so they maybe get a few hours on a Thursday afternoon for development time. So that may be, going to do a course on our data academy, which is kind of award-winning, by the way, or they do some courses on data camp, for example, or one of these providers, or they read a book, or there's maybe a self-led study group that emerges to work on cloud skills or model building skills or whatever. So we try and give people space to do those activities so that they can continue to develop their own skills and support each other doing that. I think that's really important. And then making sure we're continually investing in providing the best training that we can. So we've done a lot of work over the past few years about moving to the cloud, and that's been a big. I think it's went pretty well from our point of view, but a big part of that is not just building the tech, but also then making sure we've got the right people in the organisation, the right training for them, so that they know how to work, what the tools are, how that fits into the way that we work. And we've done a lot of investment in that side of things to really ensure the success and the adoption and engagement with those new tools that we have.
Okay. We've spoken in the past about bringing talent into the team, and when you bring new talent into the team and acknowledging a market that's back to 10 years ago, it's more competitive now than ever before. It sounds as if everybody wants the best data people now. What strategies have you found most effective for attracting and retaining your talent, and how has this evolved over the last few years?
Good question. I touched on it a little bit before. So we do a few things. So I think a big thing for me is making sure that we really sell the opportunity. So I think for me and Andy, that you mentioned before, it's all. I think we see the massive. There's huge potential here because you can really transform. We're helping to transform the whole business. Is what we see. And we have a lot of impact across how the bank operates, whether it's kind of internal systems or customer-facing systems. So you can really see a massive opportunity of the benefits of applying sort of data and AI to an organisation. So I think the big thing is when we are recruiting, it's all about selling that. It's challenging. There's lots of challenges, but they're good challenges. They're meaty things to get your teeth into. And I think for people who like solving problems, it's a good place to be. We also
is there a very clear line then from the perspective of, say, a practitioner, and the practitioner's doing a piece of work, they can almost see directly the impact that the piece of work they're doing is going to have on a much larger organisational strategic initiative?
I don't think we're perfect at that, but I think we try and make that connection so that people do see what they're doing. And a big thing we try and do for most of our projects is, say we're trying to make some improvement in like the call center or in the branches or whatever. But we get our data scientists, ML people to go and talk to those customers. They're our customers, so they see firsthand the scale of the problem they're trying to solve, but they can then also see and get feedback direct from the end user as to what they've done, how that is going to impact the end user's kind of day-to-day job. So I think that's a good way to sort of make it real for people that they are having an impact. Other things that we do I mentioned before, we look at partnering with universities. We bring on several NSC students every year to work with us. So that's been really a really good way to sort of not only help with our sort of research and look into the outside world and bringing that internally, but then it's a bit of a talent pipeline as well. So several of the people we've brought on board have come from, they've done an MSc project with us over the summer. That's been really successful. Working with Data Lab and other universities again for like seminars and bringing public speaking events has also been another good way to sort of get the word out about what we're doing. I think it's a big thing for me is I think the bank's historically not been great at talking about some of the good stuff that it does do, and we're trying to promote that more by being more public about the tech stack that we use or the processes that we use to deliver solutions.
I noticed there was a couple of months ago there was a lot of stuff about AWS. You guys were doing a lot of stuff with AWS. It was AWS conferences and stuff. And so I have always looked at this particular challenge, and that challenge obviously of attraction and retention, as being quite a holistic challenge. And what by that I mean, obviously from the industry I work in, it can sometimes be seen as we've got a problem, press the button, outsource it to this organisation and we'll let them look after it. But I've always thought, well, if you're in that scenario, then unfortunately that's a bit of a burning platform. What you should really do is try and create a series of different factors that coexist with each other, which means that you don't ever need to have a burning platform. And correspondingly, people are coming into your organisation for the right reasons and are less likely to leave. And if you've got things like a strong academic collaborative culture, if you've got that purpose built into work, if you've got that almost like a culture of self-improvement and curiosity, then the likelihood is, based on the fact that I speak to a lot of people who are looking to leave work because they don't have that, if you've got those type of things, you're number one, you're more likely to attract the best, and you are less likely to lose them because somebody else over there is doing the things that you should be doing. So it is a holistic solution.
Absolutely. And I think, I'm biased, but I think we do a fairly good job at that. I'm obviously keen to get feedback from people if that's true or not, but I think we really do try and make sure people do get time to develop themselves, to get chances to grow, learn new things, grow in the organisation, bring the outside in as well. So we do. We're very conscious of that, and having a really good, strong core team that's going to stay with us for a long time is massive for us.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here, and it's probably going to be a hard one for you to answer because I'm going to ask you to be objective about yourself. But do you think that your background, your academic background, has been a contributing factor in the way in which you've structured the team with that collaborative mindset at the heart of it?
I think for me, I think it definitely has been. I think collaboration for me is just like why wouldn't you do it? I think for years of that, working at CERN and being part of these big organisations where there's hundreds of people all working together on a kind of single goal, it just completely makes sense to me. So I come at things where that's the default, and it's just second nature to me that collaboration is the way that you would solve a problem, because these things are often too big for any individual to do that. So I think being I think in addition to collaboration, it's about being open, honest, transparent about where you are with a particular challenge, or whether it's technical or a kind of more like a people personal issue. I think if you have that that builds up that trust that I spoke about before. And I think that having that trusting, collaborative environment, it's something it's where I thrive. I really enjoy that, and I think most people that I would want in my team would agree with that sentiment.
I suppose the reason for asking that question, there are two parts to it. The first one is the slightly negative, and we know that not every data project or data team is successful. And there can often be tensions and failures within organizations. And you don't have to look far to see this often repeated line of, we've invested X in a data team and we haven't had any return.
Yeah.
And that's the first point. And I suppose you've clearly, because you spoke earlier on about you were employee number 10 and you're now something like 100.
Yeah.
You've clearly been successful. And maybe there's a lesson out there for data leaders who are maybe less open to that idea of collaboration and honesty and authenticity, if you like, that maybe this is something that they might want to take on board. I'm not saying you've got the answer to everything, but there's clearly been a path there that's been successful.
Yeah, it definitely has been. Maybe we're just lucky. I don't know, but
you keep saying that, mate. You can't be lucky forever.
But yeah, it's just the way that we like to operate, and we've been it's right from the start. That's been part of the culture of our team, and we continue to sort of nurture that to make sure that it's that's how we operate going forward.
Okay, back to that wider lens then, and you've mentioned the other departments, in essence, your internal customer base, if you like, and all those different, technology or IT over there or finance over there. How does your team collaborate with them? How is it actually done? And has that process changed? Has it evolved over time?
Yeah, I think we've definitely learned a lot over the past few years as we worked. I think initially it's not, when you set up a new team, there can be a little bit resistant. Like, who are you? Like, what are you here for? I know what I'm doing. You can leave me alone. I think that's true of any organisation probably. So I think initially it was all about sort of latching on to some early wins with customers that showed a bit of interest, and then from that we've then built up a bit of a reputation, show what we can do, show we can deliver sort of quality at a decent pace, and that built up a lot of momentum off the back of that, which has been good. I think we've also developed a bit of a playbook as to how you should be operating, how you should deliver projects with data and ML. And then that goes back to the kind of risk angle, like how do you show you're in control? Like where are you in the process? Are you in a kind of discovery phase? Are you trying to build to go to live? Are you in operational mode? So there's things there where we've developed that playbook to really help people understand how we operate, how they should operate, what the kind of the language is to communicate about things, and that again builds trust and shows that we've got a kind of credibility. So that's definitely evolved over time. We've learned a lot of sort of things the hard way that that is now kind of embedded in that playbook.
And do you think that the changing landscape we're seeing around us, and I'm thinking here in specific about almost the ease at which things like large language models can now be deployed by non-technical specialists. Do you think that as the environment around you increases in its data capability, you're going to have to evolve and change to keep pace with that as your customers become more data literate, more data savvy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been the story of the past year for us, and will be even more this year. I think with the rise of Gen AI, it's been fantastic in so many ways that it's really opened the door. I think before we were always going out to customers internally to sort of say, how can we help you? And now with Gen AI, they've all got ChatGPT on their phone, and they go, now there's a kind of tidal wave of things coming to us to say, how can you help us make use of this? So that's been brilliant. We've now with so much work, we're trying to. There's a lot of prioritization discussions. What do we actually have to focus on? It has also then lowered the bar in many ways, because people can now hit an API, and suddenly they've got the power of GPT-4 behind that to start to generate some text or images or whatever. which is brilliant. I think there's so much potential there, but then it's like, how do you do that in a safe way? How do you know, how do you validate those models such that you're getting the right sort of response for your customers? How do you evaluate the risks? What technology do you need to do that in a safe way? So it's definitely lowered the bar. There's lots of people, lots of software development teams around that can now just crack on with doing AI, but then there's a whole set of things about doing it in the right way and making sure that they don't just sort of go off. You've seen lots of articles online about, like, there was the DPD chatbot that they deployed last week. It was on the BBC News, and some guy sort of jailbroke it within a few minutes, and it was generating lots of expletives and whatever. So all that stuff is like, that's the stuff we're trying to deal with right now, and I'm sure many organisations, which is it's fun, right? There's lots to learn in that space. So yeah, that's where
I suppose it takes us back full circle to the very beginning of the conversation, where you spoke about that need for balance between the curiosity innovation requires, but then the framework, the safety net or the cage that says let's not play outside this. And I suppose it doesn't matter whether your internal customers start coming to you with more and more ideas. You just need to go through the same. That's a great idea. Let's see if we can work it within the framework.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And see how we can sort of leverage existing assets to maybe help them go faster. Can we reuse patterns or artifacts that were created already so that they can then get a leg up and move more quickly.
And from a data leader's perspective, you find this exciting rather than scary. This is what you're in the game for.
That's what you're here for. That's where you get out in the morning to sort of, I think we know we don't know all the answers, and that's fine. We just have to kind of work together, experiment, try new things, and then some of these things are going to pay off in the end. So that's what kind of makes it fun.
We're almost at the end, Greg. Okay. Last couple of questions, and the first one we're going to look a little bit forward in time.
Right.
We acknowledge that so much has changed in the last decade, but what do you think the next decade might have in store? Just some spots on the horizon that you can maybe see coming in the next 10 years or so, both in terms of data technology, but also business practice.
Yeah.
What can you see changing?
It's a good one. So I think we kind of touched on it a little bit just in the previous question. It was really, I think, with the rise of sort of generative AI, it has lowered the bar in terms of what you can do, but it's also then it means that as a data AI team, we're not just just building models anymore. What we really were trying to do is build end-to-end systems that the customers, whether it's internal or external, can use. So it's really about, before it was we had a few data scientists and some data engineers building some linear regression or some neural net model to predict something. But now we think much more about trying to build applications which have an ML AI bit at the core of it, but it's also then about the front end, the back end, the user experience.
It's a product.
It's a product now that we're starting to develop. So that then means we have to evolve the team again. So it's not just a group of data scientists, data engineers working together, but we've now got software engineers, we've got solution designers, we've got ML engineers, we've got operations people, we've got testers. It's really changing the nature of the team, and that's what we're going through just now, is a bit of a reorganization to help make sure we've got the right skills in place to let us do that. So I think that's a big sort of learning and a big move for us over the next few years is moving from just building the model bit to actually building end-to-end applications. And again, a lot to learn as we do that.
And is there anything on the business landscape that you see as, and I'm conscious here, things that I've just finished having a conversation with someone, it was all about blockchain and distributed ledger and whether or not it might have an impact on classic financial services. Is there anything else out there, not necessarily just technology, but in the business sense, that you think might change things for you?
I think for us it's maybe, I don't know about blockchain is always I'm never really sure. Is it the problem looking for a solution? And I don't really know. I don't know much about it, to be honest. So can't really comment. I think for us, it's a an idea that trying to become more personalised for the customer is
Right.
the way forward.
Yeah.
So how can you use the data to sort of help the customer at different points in their life journey with us? So I think that's something we're really focusing on, and I think Gen AI can maybe help with some of that personalisation, for example, and used in the right way. I think not sort of carte blanche, but in the right way. But yeah, I think using our data to really understand customer needs and try and be there for when they need it. I think that's a big thing for us.
So it would be like, for example, the evolving nature of the bank's interactions with its customer.
Yeah.
And one of the obvious manifestations of that may be high street branches have maybe been closed down in some areas, but there's an increased personalisation element because the bank understands the individual better because of the nature of the relationship, because of the data between.
Yeah.
It means, you might not be going into a branch where you probably weren't recognised anyway, but now the interactions with you as a customer are much more about you.
Yeah, definitely. And we've all been there where you've called a call centre and you get transferred between different departments, and then they don't really talk to each other. So I think things like that are like really important to customers, and something that we're really keen to make sure that we're all over that, so that we can help people.
Okay, final question, sir. Now, we always conclude each episode with a trip in the Wayback Machine.
All right, okay.
So, if you could talk to Greg from 10 years ago, based on what you now know about building data teams in these evolving landscapes we've spoken about, what advice would you give yourself?
What advice? That's a good one. It's a good one. I think so. Maybe a bit to the point I made before about this move to building sort of applications and sort of end-to-end. I think I would definitely. I would say that we should have done that earlier. I think having people with much more of a kind of software development, application, software design sort of skill set in the team earlier would have helped us deliver more quickly and deliver value more quickly to the customers. I think quite often, it's if you're just building some sort of prediction model, bringing that to life, to like what it means to the customer is easier if you can show them like a demo of this, what it would look like in reality. So I think that's something we could have done better. And I think then linked to that is making sure we have people in the team who are really good storytellers and can articulate what it means to the end user or the customer in their language. And it's not just a confusion matrix of here's how the model performed and got things wrong or right. So that, doing much more of that and being more explicit about it, I think could have saved us some of the pain points that we've definitely hit along the way. So.
Brilliant way to end things, fella. Brilliant way to end things. Greg, if somebody wanted to find out a little bit more about the work that you do, pick your brains perhaps, best place to find you? LinkedIn, probably?
Get me on LinkedIn, yep, absolutely. That's it. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Greg, thank you so much again for taking the time to speak to me today. Thanks for sharing your passion, your knowledge and your expertise on the theme of building data teams in an evolving world. I hope you, dear listener, have enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. And if you have, please take a moment to review the show on your podcast or video platform of choice. Give us 5 stars, obviously, and share this episode with anyone you feel would benefit from a view or a listen. Thank you. Please do look out for the other episodes in this podcast series, where I'm joined by other special guests discussing topics relevant to today's bosses in data. Visit www.mbnsolutions.com for resources like our UK Data Salary Survey, to watch recordings of our latest data meetup events, or to download our white papers, research and thought leadership. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter for the latest news, views, opinions and, of course, hottest opportunities in the data space. Goodbye.
Thank you.